Okay, so this video is a little bit different in that I am responding to comments that I made in another video, and I figured what I'll do is kind of just splice the two videos together. Now the comments that I'm responding to are from a friend's Facebook page. It's about an epidemic of knife and gun crime in London, England. On the Facebook page, I made comments about 3 solutions that I have, and these are my own personal solutions in regards to the epidemic of knife and gun crime among the black youth in the UK. So check out this. So 3 ways to solve this epidemic of knife and gun violence. Number 1, the youth that are either convicted or were found to be accomplices that have committed these kind of crimes, you make it mandatory for them to stay in prison and to buddy up with someone who has been convicted of a knife or gun crime. You make them buddy up, and the purpose of this is to see if that they can learn some level of remorse for what they have done. As a youth, you only see now. You may not have the wisdom to see the future or to understand consequences, and I think that if you make it mandatory for some of these youth to buddy up with someone who has had time to sit in prison and to reflect on what they have done, on the kind of crime that they've committed, I think that that experience in and of itself may help to change that youth's psyche, or that youth's understanding of the kind of life that they're trying to live. Number 2, you make that youth, you make it mandatory that they become part of a team that works in a morgue, and all they're handling specifically would be innocent victims who have been murdered through gun or knife violence. So you make them work in the morgue, you make it mandatory that they handle the bodies of these victims, and in doing that you hope that having to treat that person in death, that they will gain some respect for life. Number 3, make them part of the crime scene cleanup. Once the body of the murdered person has been removed, you make those youth now come in as part of the crime scene cleanup. So whether the person was killed inside or outside, there's always a team that comes in and does a physical cleanup. And you make them do that specifically to people who have lost their life through having been shot or being stabbed. You make them responsible for the crime scene cleanup. Now some of this, I know, sounds a bit gruesome, and even as I talk about it, it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. But the reality is that if in England, among the youth, this kind of crime, knife and gun crime, has reached an epidemic, then we're not in a position to handle this in a nicey kind of way. If you have youth who are between, what, 12 and 20, or 12 and 25, or let's around that age group, right? If there's an epidemic that exists among them where you have them killing each other with knives and with guns, right? That means that there's already a mindset among that group where life is not being respected. It's as simple as that. Life is not being respected, right? It's so easy to just go and kill a person with a knife, end their life and walk away. It's so easy to go and shoot a person, end their life and walk away. And that's a mindset. So to me, something within the psyche of these youth has to be changed. And I think that the three solutions that I have just mentioned, maybe that's the start of trying to change the psyche of these youth. Because if they don't respect life, maybe if you put them in a situation where they're constantly having to deal with the aftermath in death, maybe that might be what they need to shift their psyche, where they start to respect life more. Okay, so as I had commented when I had done the video and was listening to it again, I was saying, oh, that sounds a bit harsh, right? But then I'm thinking that no, it's not really a harsh thing. And the reason why I'm saying that is that we're talking about youth, right? What, 10 to 25-year-olds, right? Who are now seen as the perpetrators of an epidemic of knife and gun violence in England. I'm annoyed because I'm living stateside, and when I initially came here I was a young adult, and I have been witness to the kind of ghettoization that takes place, or that has taken place, especially in poor and black communities stateside. So when I think about that same thing happening in England, it is disappointing. To me, it's almost like a forced ghettoization. I never grew up with this problem, this issue when I was a young person, right? But it is what it is. It's a real problem at this point in time among the youth in the UK. So the reason why I'm kind of splicing this video is because I don't want to just make these comments and say, oh, there's an epidemic going on there and this is how you handle it. My thing is that I know that there are many people of colour in England who are raising their children and they're raising their families right, and it only takes a handful of people to not do that and to have their youth out on the street wilding and carrying on, right, for there to be this epidemic going on. And I would say that if you're watching this and you know that you're raising your youth right, you're raising your family right, just continue doing what you're doing. Focus their energies and your energies on them living a positive life. This epidemic of knife and gun crime in England, I know it's among a certain minority of people, and yet it impacts upon the majority, you know, and we have to understand that it's something that will I'm hoping is something that will decrease as the youth get older, because wherever those youth are headed to, that's where they're heading to. You understand? So whether they're heading towards their own deaths, they're heading towards prison. That's the choices that they've made. So in hindsight, I'm sticking to the solutions that I have, that I've stated. There are solutions, and we have to continue on in a very positive and clear manner about what we're doing and what life we're going to be about. Now, we're not going to be about that false or adopted ghettoization. We're not going to be about that life. There are many of us who are doing what we need to do, who are doing the right thing, raising the youth, raising the next generation in the right way. And I'd like to focus on that. Let me hear how you're doing that, you know. At the same time, I don't want to dismiss the reality that there are people who are being impacted negatively because of this epidemic. And if you have been, or a family member has been, a victim of this knife and gun epidemic, share that. You understand? Because we have to have empathy for the innocent victims of this, and that will encourage us to continue doing what we're doing, do the right thing in the black community, because many of us are. That's why I want to emphasize, many of us are doing that, and we have to have less and less and less tolerance for those who are not, and find a way, find a voice to get to those parents, those families, and say, listen, we have to find a solution here. But give me your feedback. I would love to hear your comments. So I thank you for sharing your time with me. I hope that my hindsight has and will inspire you, and that you will find your own way to blossom.